Hey everyone, welcome to Sidetrack Adventures. This is Steve. Right now I'm in southern Oregon, not too far from the town of Bly, and today we're going to be looking for the only place in the continental United States where any Americans were killed as a result of enemy action during World War II. And this place is in the mountains of Oregon, almost 200 miles from the coast. We are right off Highway 140 on Forest Road 34. And we're going to head about 10 miles or so into the Fremont-Wainnamie National Forest. We are driving the same road right now that on May 5th, 1945, Reverend Archie Mitchell was taking when he took a group of Sunday school children for a picnic and some fishing on Gerhardt Mountain. They were joined by Mitchell's 26-year-old wife Elise, who was pregnant with their first child. There's no way they could have ever guessed, especially being thousands of miles away from the war in the Pacific, where the Battle of Okinawa was already taking place, that Elise and the 5 children would become the only Americans to be killed by enemy action during World War II in the contiguous United States. After the United States bombed Japan in April 1942 during the Doolittle Raid, Japan was looking for a way to retaliate directly against the United States mainland. Due to the distance, Japan really didn't have the capability for a direct attack on the United States, so they looked to unconventional means of attack. One of the ideas was to start forest fires in the American West in order to divert resources away from the war effort. Though it's almost unknown today, Japan did launch a seaplane from a submarine off the coast of Oregon and bombed a mountain near Brookings, Oregon with an incendiary bomb. That was only the second time ever that the contiguous United States was bombed by air, and the first by an enemy aircraft. Naco, Arizona was accidentally bombed in 1929, but by an American mercenary who was trying to bomb Mexico. The seaplane idea was dropped, but the idea to create forest fires wasn't. A general who worked on a balloon bombing program in the 1930s revived the idea. A plan was hatched to send hydrogen-filled paper balloons equipped with incendiary bombs into the jet stream at an elevation of 25,000 to 27,000 feet, where they then float to the United States in 30 to 100 hours. The first balloons were launched on November 3, 1944, and over the next several months, about 9,300 balloons were launched from Japan into the jet stream. Of those balloons, only about 300 were ever observed in the United States, Canada, or Mexico. The whole program was ineffective, to say the least. Sending the balloons into the jet stream would only reach the United States in the winter and spring, when everything in the Pacific Northwest is covered with snow or damp. Not the ideal time to start a forest fire. Of course, as I say that, we reach an area that's clearly been burned recently by a forest fire. By April 1945, with resources running short and no success by the program, Japan ended it, launching its last balloon on April 20th. About 2 weeks after Japan ended their balloon program, the Mitchells stopped here because the forest road was still covered with snow, and they were unable to go any further. Things are probably a little bit different here than they were in 1945, so I'm not exactly sure where they parked, but as Reverend Mitchell parked the car, Elise and the 5 children walked ahead. While the Reverend was getting the picnic basket and fishing poles out of the trunk, he looked over and saw his wife and the children standing in a circle looking down at the ground about 150 feet away. They had discovered a balloon and carriage loaded with an anti-personnel bomb. Elise yelled to her husband, "Look what we found! It looks like some kind of balloon." Then there was a tremendous explosion that tore through the forest. And it looks like there are some names engraved on this bench. Let's see if we could figure out who these are. These don't appear to be the names of the balloon bomb victims. As we saw driving over here, there have been a number of forest fires in this area over the years. Let's head over here to where the actual explosion occurred. There's also a monument over here. An army investigation determined that the bomb had been kicked or dropped, but regardless of what happened, there was a large explosion and 4 of the children were killed instantly. Elise and a 5th child died from their wounds shortly after. There are some informational kiosks here giving some background information on the balloon program, as well as the history of the monument that's here. This monument over here is supposed to be in the exact spot where the explosion occurred, and supposedly some of the trees around here still have scars from the explosion. So the government had known about Japan sending balloons for months. The whole thing had been kept secret. It looks like we have to get through this gate here. But the whole thing had been kept secret from the American people so as not to cause any panic and to deny the Japanese any intelligence as to whether their plan was working. When this explosion happened, it was still under a press blackout, so it was just reported that they were killed by an explosion, but it would be several weeks before the balloon attacks would become public and the truth of what happened here was revealed. And here are the names of the victims: Elise Mitchell, Dick Patsky, Jay Gifford, Edward Ingen, Joan Patsky, and Sherman Shoemaker. And as I mentioned, Elise was 5 months pregnant at the time as well. It looks like there's another plaque over here. Let's take a look and see what this is. Shrapnel tree. So this must be one of the trees that were damaged, and yeah, you can see the damage on the tree. Still here after all these years. Here's a closer look at the damage from the explosion. This monument was dedicated on August 20th, 1950, and about 300 people attended the dedication ceremony, including the Governor of Oregon, Douglas McKay. Not attending the ceremony, however, was Archie Mitchell, who had become a missionary in Vietnam a few years prior. In 1962, Archie Mitchell was abducted by Viet Cong guerrillas and was never seen again. It looks like here's another tree that still has damage from the explosion. A little more than 3 months after the explosion here, Japan surrendered and the war was over. Their balloon program was just a small footnote in the war that hardly would have been notable had the Mitchell party not run into a string of bad luck. Being here, it's hard to imagine a less likely place to be a footnote in World War II. So that's our look at the Mitchell Monument, and the only place in the continental United States where Americans were killed by enemy action during World War II. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and we'll see you next week.